and cars, it's time for MotoGP Sprint to take centre stage for the first time here at legendary Le Mans. The French fans who made the annual pilgrimage to the South region are in for a special treat as they get revved up for another epic sprint showdown. It's time for MotoGP. So as he mentioned, a venue steeped in history, full of motorsport tradition, the 4.19 kilometre Ducati circuit here in Le Mans, 14 corners, 5 left, 9 right, 13 lap Tissot sprint coming your way in what feels like the hottest conditions of the weekend so far. Pecco Bagnaia, the world champion, who starts the Sprint Antemo's Grand Prix from pole position. He is the all-time lap record holder around this circuit. Through the fast sweep into the Dunlop chicane where Aleix Espargaro had a heavy crash in qualifying this morning. You have to be careful through La Chapelle Museum corner, turn 7. Overtaking hot spot down the hill into Garage there, turn number 8. And then that crucial sector 4. The lap completed by the double right-hander, Ricordemont. What a spectacular sight that is on a weekend where the MotoGP World Championship reaches a landmark, a milestone number. 999 Grand Prix have taken place since 1949, and coming into the Chartres Grand Prix of France. Beautiful conditions. What a super Saturday afternoon we've got in store for you here in Le Mans. Those fans are getting ready for their first taste of the Tissot Sprint. 13 laps coming your way with the reigning world champion, Ducati Lenovo team star Pecco Bagnaia, launching from pole position. He was on pole here, of course, in Le Mans 12 months ago on a very spicy front row indeed. Marc Marquez, the Repsol Honda star, the 93 within inches of a 93rd career pole position. Back after a 6-month injury layoff, the 8 times world champion, he goes to the middle of that front row in second place. Great day so far as well for Mini VR46 Racing Team rider Luca Marini. He came through Q1 and he's on the front row of the grid as well. The mass throngs of French fans who have packed into this Bugatti circuit to savour and soak up the atmosphere of this first sprint for them on French soil. Well, there was a tinge of disappointment, to say the least, this morning for the home crowd heroes. 2 men who they've flocked to the turnstiles expecting to see them fight for the podium. That may well still be the case. But hard work, to say the least, ahead of Prima Pramac Racing's Johann Zarco. Finds himself at the back of the 3rd row of the grid in 9th place. And it got even worse for our former world champion, the golden boy of French motorsport, the darling of the MotoGP fans here at Le Mans, Fabio Quartararo's qualifying woes just are not easing up, are they, at all? For the second race in succession, there was no Yamaha featuring in the second 15-minute qualifying session, which completed a real thrilling morning action here in Le Mans. And Fabio Quartararo in front of his home crowd, an expectant home crowd, who were hoping to see their man fight for the podium in today's sprint and the full-length Grand Prix over 27 laps tomorrow. Quartararo finds himself heading the 5th row of the grid. 13th place for the Frenchman. He's not qualified higher than 7th so far this season. Time attacks have been his real issue so far this season. What can he salvage then from 13th place on the grid, having just missed out? He was, what, 200ths of a second away from edging himself into that second qualifying session. As we get set, then the build-up has started here for the 5th instalment of sprint action in 2023. Matt Burton, Lewis Sotheby with you in the commentary box. Simon Crafar poised and primed and ready to pick things through down in pit lane and in the grid. And here he is then, Marc Marquez. What a showstopper it was from him this morning, Lewis. We thought he'd taken pole position from Pecco Bagnaia. It took the perfect 4th sector from the reigning world champion to nail his 13th MotoGP pole. But whenever Marc Marquez is close to a front row, he's had 5 actually successive front row starts as a third-choice Spaniard, you know there's going to be some spectacular show in store.
Love him or hate him, Marc Marquez is must-watch in MotoGP. It is great to have him back, and it took a special lap, as you say, from this man, Pecco Bagnaia, to deny Marc Marquez what would have been for him, of course, back-to-back pole positions. His previous appearance this season in Portimao saw him take pole position, and he was right in the middle of the exciting action in the inaugural sprint back in Portugal at the start of the season, wasn't he? Marc Marquez, of course, finished on the podium that day, so he will certainly be going for gold here this afternoon.
Stop and go in nature, isn't it, this Le Mans circuit? It's all about the confidence in the front end, the braking stability, and then the rear traction through those second and first gear acceleration points. Into garage there, turn number 8. Turn 9, also a heavy braking point. Marc Marquez was down there at the end of P2 yesterday, the Shaman of Earth S's. Didn't knock him out of his stride though, did it? He has been back with a bang, just as we knew he would be. The 340mm mass disc. That's going to be the stopping performance required here this weekend. As we mentioned, very, very stop and go. Feels like, as we just mentioned, these are the hottest conditions we've had of the weekend so far. Into the factory Aprilia garage. Well, for this man this morning, it was very much a case of what might have been. He was sitting on pole position with about 5 minutes of this morning's dramatic Q2 session remaining. He's still all smiles now, thankfully, and a double thumbs up as well. Nothing can wipe the smile off Maverick Vinales' face right now, although Aprilia tried to this morning. 5 minutes of Q2 remaining. He was on course for pole position, and then he had a problem exiting the pit lane as the crowd start to raise the volume, crank up the volume here ahead of this sprint. But yeah, Maverick Vinales, as we mentioned, Lewis, pondering what might have been, having had that pole position potentially cruelly denied with the Aprilia RSGP technical failure.
Didn't get the chance to do a second run in qualifying. The last thing he expected to be doing during qualifying 2 was being pushed back down the opposite direction of the pit lane by Moto3 rider Riccardo Rossi, but that was the scenario that Maverick Vinales found himself in. 6th on the grid for him, though, is by no means a disaster. He can certainly compete for the podium from there. You just saw Joan Zarco as well, one of the other home favourites. He's perhaps the most likely French success here this afternoon. He goes from 9th.
You can't believe what I've just seen there. There are fans that are in the trees to get the best vantage point around this Le Mans circuit. We said that there's not a spare ticket in the house for tomorrow's full-length feature Grand Prix, but they're already clambering the trees to try and get their first taste of a MotoGP sprint. Absolutely brilliant. The atmosphere has been sizzling here, building throughout the day as we get set for this 13-lap sprint. Jules, good to see Aleix Espargaro ready to take his part in this sprint, because he had an almighty scare this morning. One of the fastest crashes you can have, not just here in Le Mans, but of the entire 20-round World Championship calendar. The front washing out from underneath him. Well, he was just shy of 300 kilometres an hour when that front lost grip. It must have gone at least 100, 150 metres sliding on his back. A couple of barrel rolls. He was inspected by MotoGP Medical Director Dr. Angel Chartra. The good news is Aleix Espargaro is fit for this sprint. The bad news, that late high-speed tumble has dumped him smack bang in the middle of row 4. 11th place for Aleix Espargaro on his Aprilia RSGP.
Marco Bezzecchi there in the Mini VR46 box. He's had a pretty big crash of his own already today, hasn't he? Crashed in free practice earlier on this morning, which essentially wrote off the entire session for him. He's much more like his old self after a difficult head. He's 7th on the grid. You'd expect him to be eyeing to go forward from there. He has Alex Marquez alongside him on the 3rd row of the grid. Alex Marquez might have been one of those, seeing the long-range forecast coming into this weekend, might have been hoping for a rain-affected sprint here at Le Mans. Of course, he did take pole in wet conditions in Argentina and his first ever MotoGP podium in wet conditions here 3 years ago. But we're delighted to report, as you can see there with the bright blue skies, we've got dry weather for this upcoming sprint.
And that's a very special, there's a committed fan there. Look at his haircut. He's got El Diablo shaved into his head. That is commitment, to say the least. What can Fabio Quartararo do to bring some cheer to his home crowd? Well, of course, this is a very, very special Shark Grand Prix of France here this weekend, not just because we're expecting a new record crowd for this French Grand Prix, but of course, there it is, the numbers. That banner tells the whole story. They've got the celebration cake there. They've been celebrating on the campsites, it's fair to say, whether it's the 1000th GP or not. They always know how to have a good party, don't they, here, to ramp up the atmosphere in Le Mans. But yes, a special occasion for the MotoGP World Championship as we reach the landmark of 1,000 Grand Prix, and it's great to see one of the best to ever do it, Giacomo Agostini, the 15 times world champion. He's been here this weekend. I know that there's a special exhibition of some of his title-winning motorcycles. I know that the fans have been very, very keen to see some parts, some iconic bikes that carry Giacomo Agostini to his 15 world titles and his astonishing record. Will it ever be beaten? 122 2 Grand Prix victories. The engines get fired up then as the riders get set for the sighting lap, the formation lap as they come to the grid. I've got to say, despite the fact that Fabio Quartararo has had a pretty difficult home Grand Prix so far, there's been very little to dampen the spirits of his home fans, Lewis.
No, if there's anything, if fan power was enough to get you around the Le Mans circuit quickly, Fabio Quartararo would be on pole position by quite some margin. He has got so much support here. The cheers are enough to send a shiver down your spine, and this is only Sprint Saturday. Just imagine what it's going to be like, the atmosphere with a capacity crowd of 110,000 expected for tomorrow. But this is what the Saturday crowd have come to see. The Tissot Sprint, which has produced so much fireworks already in 2023. We saw the top 10 covered by less than 6 seconds in Portimao, just over 5 seconds in Austin, 7 seconds in Spain, of course, with the top 3 separated by less than 1 second. It's delivered in heaps and bounds so far this season. Are we set for another Saturday thriller?
Whoever got the licensing deal for the Zarco and Quartararo merchandise this year, well, congratulations. Enjoy your holiday after this French Grand Prix in the Bahamas, or wherever it takes you, because the French flags and the Quartararo Zarco 20 and 5 flags are out in force. They've been draped from buildings in downtown Le Mans as Fabio Quartararo then will come to I was going to say an uncharacteristically low grip position, but he is getting used to it, isn't he, right now? This is Quartararo's qualifying record so far in 2023, and let's not forget how many pole positions and front row starts did Fabio have in the early part of his Grand Prix career in MotoGP. 11th in Portimao, 10th in Termas, 7th this season, best on the grid in Texas, 16th, his worst qualifying of his MotoGP career last time out in Jerez, 13th, then he'll go from the sprint and the French Grand Prix here tomorrow. Can he not just bring some cheer to the fans, but bring some cheer to himself? He's been down in the dumps all weekend here, hasn't he, Fabio Quartararo? Struggling particularly to get that Yamaha turn. As we mentioned this morning, be careful what you wish for. Yamaha gave him the extra power he wanted, but it's done something to unsettle the balance of that Yamaha. You've got to feel that it's going to be a soft front, soft rear shootout in this short 13-lap dash in this Tissot Sprint. A lot of riders were struggling for feel on the medium front yesterday. Marc Marquez and Alex Marquez both took heavy tumbles while they were running laps on the medium front, so certainly you're going to expect everybody to be going for the soft rear tyre, although maybe somebody might have their hand forced maybe with the medium front in the hotter conditions. I know we'll be finding out very, very shortly. We'll be keeping a close eye on the Michelin WhatsApp group to find out exactly who's chosen what for this sprint battle.
Pecco Bagnaia pulls onto pole position, a pole position that didn't look likely at the end of practice yesterday. The rider, of course, who dominated practice yesterday was Jack Miller. He will go from the front of the second row. Keep a very close eye on the KTM man. He looked like the rider that came into qualifying as the favourite to start from pole position, but that KTM has looked so competitive right throughout practice so far. Miller starts from 4th, Binder from 10th, and the KTM duo have certainly enjoyed their fair share of sprint success so far this season.
They have. We have to give a shout out as well to a man who's on a rebranded KTM, the Gas Tech 3 rider in their home Grand Prix, Augusto Fernandez, advancing through a very tricky Q1 this morning for the first time in his Premier Class career. He goes from 12th place, top job by the reigning Moto2 world champion who won the Grand Prix here last year. Fabio Quartararo, we just stayed silent there for a brief moment as Fabio Quartararo came to the grid a lot further back than he wanted to be. Normally we expect to see Fabio Quartararo in Le Mans fighting for that front row. He's still getting a rousing reception. They're on their feet, look at them. These drone shots are just bringing you such a unique perspective, aren't they, to the 2023 World Championship. I just want to mention, actually, our drone pilot, our drone expert. It's been remiss of me not to mention him before this weekend. We're in round 5 because he's bringing us such stunning coverage. Nacho Deval is the man in charge of the drone in 2023. What an outstanding job he's doing and bringing us a very different perspective on MotoGP. Congratulations to him and to Dorna as well for that great innovation. It's actually making me want to buy a drone.
I'm not sure I'll be able to successfully pilot one of them either. It might end up in some tears if I bought one of those. Pecco Bagnaia then on pole position. High hopes for Ducati coming to this sprint. What can we expect from them? Let's get some pre-sprint thoughts from his team manager, Davide Tardozzi. He's with Simon on the grid.
He is, Davide. I always look forward to your thoughts because nobody watches both your own riders and the opposition closer. What do you think about the sprint today?
Yeah, it will be tough. Pretty sure that Marc will try hard the first couple of laps to slow down Pecco, or at least to be in front of him. I think that Marc will make a very tough race, while I think that Pecco, Martin, Jack will be very, very competitive for the podium. So the first two rows will be, three guys on the first two rows will be on the podium.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. The grid then for the Tissot Sprint. Bagnaia, Marquez, Marini is your front row. Miller, Martin, Vinales, row 2. Bezzecchi, Alex Marquez and Johann Zarco together on row 3. Brad Binder starts from the front of row 4 on the medium front tyre, ahead of Aleix Espargaro and Augusto Fernandez. Fabio Quartararo, 13th at his home Grand Prix. Taka Nakagami and Fabio Gianantonio join him on row 5. Joan Mir, Frankie Morbidelli and Alex Rins together on row 6. Alex Rins in 18th position once again, just as he qualified in Spain. Danilo Petrucci back with us, replacing the injured Enea Bastianini. He's 19th on the grid ahead of Lorenzo Savadori, the sole RNF Aprilia on the grid this afternoon. And Jonas Folger, teammate to Fernandez at Gas Tech 3.
A quick glance at that grid and the tyre selections as it stands right now. Jack Miller, Brad Binder and Jonas Folger, the three riders that have gone for that medium front tyre. They've been convinced by the extra temperature that feels like it's around this Le Mans circuit. Well, we can find out directly from right in the heart of the Red Bull KTM Factory Racing Garage, because Simon Crafard's on the grid with their boss, Francesco Guidotti. Stan, Tom, down to you.
Yeah, I am. We're standing next to Jack. Francesco, I mean, Jack's on the second row, which is great, but it feels like you didn't quite achieve what was possible today in qualifying. What about the sprint?
Yeah, you never know. Qualifying, everything must be perfect to be in the front row. This morning we weren't perfect. We weren't in the perfect timing to go out. But yeah, second row is still something good to have a good start. So let's see. 13 laps. We start to realize that the sprint race is not a very short race. So it's just a sprint race. But 13 laps will be quite a lot.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Francesco Guidotti. That's what so much of this weekend has been about. The focal point, the epicentre of all of these celebrations, the 1000th Grand Prix, and what a place to do it. What a fitting venue to have such a milestone in Grand Prix history. We just saw there the aerial shot of this magnificent Le Mans circuit. As we mentioned, a circuit synonymous with being the spiritual home of endurance racing on 2 and 4 wheels. The campsites are packed. They are noisy, they are loud, they are lively, to say the least. And that's what we're expecting in this 13-lap sprint coming up very, very shortly. Be interesting to see, won't we, when we get confirmation of what the final tyre choices are, whether Miller and Binder are going to go a little bit out of left field and run the medium front tyre. I suppose, thinking about it, Lewis, they've got to be aggressive early on, and maybe just with that extra support from the medium to make some overtakes, be aggressive on the brakes. That may well just be a factor in their consideration.
It is one of the great strengths of the KTM. So difficult, as we saw in the ref, once they get to the front, to outbrake them and get back past them. And of course they're able, with that prowess on the brakes, to overtake others. The other thing to watch out, of course, from the KTMs, as we saw on 4 separate occasions at Jerez 2 weeks ago, they are so quick off the line. Jack Miller, of course, starting from 4th on the grid, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that he could be leading by the time they get up to the Dunlop chicane. Of course, Brad Binder came from 15th on the grid to win the sprint in Argentina, so he won't be too far from the front either.
There is Johann Zarco, then, as we mentioned, mass support for him and Quartararo here. Zarco's got work to do, though. 9th place from the 32-year-old Frenchman. He's yet to take significant big points in the Saturday sprint. A best of 8th in Portimao, 8th last time out at the Spanish Grand Prix. Now then, what a job it's been so far today for Luca Marini, through Q1, breaking the hearts of thousands of French fans to push Fabio Quartararo out. And then on the front row of the grid, Marco Bezzecchi will be a danger man as well, going from the head of row 3 and 7th. Let's hear some pre-race thoughts from the Mini VR46 boss, Pablo Nieto.
Yeah, what an atmosphere down here. Pablo, both your riders look strong. Luca did an amazing job in qualifying, and Bez pace all weekend looked fantastic. Please give us your thoughts.
Yeah, first of all, sorry for my voice. I lost my voice, I don't know why. Yeah, but we make a very good job. So the only thing with Marco, we have to take care about the race.
Sorry about your voice, and best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you very much, sorry.
Yeah, no need to apologise, Pablo. We understood the message loud and clear. Yeah, he's got big expectations, hasn't he? Particularly with Marini going from that front row. Although both he and Marc Marquez said over the longer distance maybe they don't have the race pace of Pecco Bagnaia. You do feel that to make a bit of a fight of this, a battle of this, Marquez or Marini is going to have to get ahead of Pecco Bagnaia and disrupt his rhythm, because the guys who've got the pace further down the grid, the likes of Jack Miller and Brad Binder in particular, they can't afford to get stuck behind the likes of Marquez and Marini and give Bagnaia that clear track ahead of him. That is a sight to warm the hearts, isn't it? Saw thousands and thousands of bikes in Le Mans last night. It took me nearly an hour to get back to the hotel from the circuit, and it's not even a 5-kilometre drive. That's how close we are to downtown Le Mans, but it was a special carnival atmosphere feeling, certainly last night, and it's going to be even louder tonight as everybody gets ready for the main Grand Prix tomorrow. Then a mixed morning for Aprilia. Maverick Vinales looked like he was going to be on pole, take 6th on the grid, a big crash for Aleix Espargaro. Thankfully he's going to start this sprint. Let's get some thoughts from their team boss, Paolo Bonora.
Paolo, your machine looks wonderful around here. I think qualifying didn't quite go to plan for both riders, but what do you expect from the sprint this afternoon?
Yes, Simon, you are right. Unfortunately, we have lost the opportunity to do a good qualifying with both riders. But regarding the race pace, we are quite good, in particular in Vinales' side. So we hope for a good race.
Thanks. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora. There's still plenty on the table for the Aprilia boys this afternoon. Maverick Vinales has had good race pace. The problem that we've seen Vinales suffer with, as good as the KTMs are getting off the line, Vinales seems to still be struggling to launch that Aprilia off the line as well. And Aleix Espargaro, who had his front tyre temperature issues in much hotter condition, we have to say, at the Spanish Grand Prix in a rest. But when he does get stuck in the pack, Aleix Espargaro, he can find it hard to make overtakes. He's okay if he's got clean track ahead of him. A little bit like the Yamahas, isn't he, at the moment, is Aleix Espargaro. But we'll keep a close eye on him, because he'll be very sore. He'll be a little bit battered and bruised after that horrible high-speed crash at turn 2 this morning.
There's been a little bit more movement towards the medium front tyre. The tyre selection has come through from Michelin. We've got a few more riders who've gone for the medium front. Lorenzo Savadori's gone for it. So has Taka Nakagami. Binder, Miller and Folger have stuck with that medium front. And add to that, the 2 Yamahas of Fabio Quartararo and Frankie Morbidelli are on the medium front tyre. Aleix Espargaro, according to our information, he's on the hard front tyre.
Well, there you go then. Aleix Espargaro going for the half front tyre. Last minute words of encouragement then from Pablo Nieto to his man Luca Marini, starting on the front row for the 5th time in his Premier Class career. 6 weeks off the bike, injured with a career-threatening right-hand injury, has knocked Marc Marquez out of his stride. He's back on the front row for the 5th race in succession, but it's all eyes on the world champion. Can he make it 3 sprint wins in 2023? Bagnaia from pole.